So it looks like Steven Twitch boss did write out his last words. Now, according to Team Z, police found a suicide note at the scene. Sources say the note contained vague references to challenges he had been dealing with, but it's unclear what exactly they were. Some say Twitch lost his life savings, but sources are saying that that is not true. I'm so uncomfortable with the speculation of what was on that note and whether or not he lost his savings.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Let's just focus on the fact that mourning him, but let's take it to a different part of the scenario. Let's take Twitch out of it. Erica, if you had lost someone to suicide, would you prefer a note? Would that give you closure? I know this is such a delicate conversation.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a note that anyone could write that's going to answer all the questions that are coming after an event like this. So I don't think a note helps.
I would feel much better. I don't know why. I would feel much better knowing the deliberate, there's some premeditation to it. There was some thought. It wasn't out of the blue. I don't know why. That gave me comfort.
Those are my thoughts.
Is that weird?
Too. In a situation where there are no ideal outcomes at all. Obviously, each one's tragic. The idea of a note could open up more questions than it answered. That is a possibility. But like you said, Tori, it would make me feel a little bit better if this was at least, it seemed like a decision they made and thought about. I obviously don't advocate for suicide, but I do advocate for somebody doing whatever they need to do to feel they're happiest. So if this was the horrible decision they made, at least it would give me some solace. I have lost friends to suicide, but just the not knowing anything, I worry about his wife just going over every conversation they had for the last 2 years. Should I have said this? Should I have gone with him? Should I have blocked the garage? Like at least just for her to get some of that off her shoulders. Yeah. It's not going to be closure, but just some of that weight would be better. I'm not advocating. I'm just saying, like, for her sake and the people that are left behind.
And Lindsay, I want to hear your opinion, but I also want you to see some of these tributes that have also been pouring in. So there's more for Twitch, with the most recent being a powerful video from Tyler Perry. He took to Instagram yesterday to share his own experiences with suicide. Take a listen.
It was so dark. I didn't think it would get any better. I had endured so much pain, so much abuse, sexual abuse. It was all so hard to just move through that I thought the only way to make this better, this pain go away, is to end my life. Had any of those attempts happened, I would have missed the best part of my life.
Lindsay, I have chills. What do you think about Tyler Perry being so open and raw?
I think it's healthy for him and his transparency, but so many other people who are watching that are probably seeing the other side of what happens if you commit to yourself and just say, I'm going to get through this mental health struggle and get past this. I think you're seeing what it could look like, because no matter how many riches, and Tyler Perry's been wealthy for a very long time, so who knows at what portion of his career this came into play, but you're judging a book by its cover based on how happy you think they are versus he's telling you that he was struggling. And so I think putting yourself as a priority in your mental health is always key, and somebody as big as Tyler Perry telling you that is showing you a perfect example of what happens like if you put that first.
Yeah. The after picture.
The after.
Yeah. I will say that Tyler Perry has one of the greatest comeback stories of all times. If you haven't understood his story from where it began, it looks vastly different from where it is now. But he said at one point, this was a takeaway that I think people really need to latch onto, is that the pain is a buy-in. And if you are someone who doesn't understand that or feels like that's very trivial compared to what you're going through, I think that it's important for people who do understand, because they've been through those transitional dark times, those setback seasons, that it's almost like the best way for me to explain it from my personal experience is the way that I have to think about life on this side of the equation is every trial and tribulation that I am going through in this moment is preparing me for what's to come in the future. And if I cannot get past these tests, then it's not that it's not going to come, it's just that I'm not going to be as prepared for it. So I always look at it like, how can I help myself in order to be an instrument to others, in order to have a testament to give? And I think that's a very important message, because we always talk about the light at the end of the tunnel, but sometimes it's so dark you can't even understand what that light is. So if you learn nothing from that reel that Tyler Perry posted, that's a really great thing to focus in when you're in a setback season.
Beautifully stated. Okay, so we're going to get into Harry and Meghan. Is Prince Harry a traitor? That's what Piers Morgan is saying. Take a listen.
It's all apparently a dark plot by Britain and the royals to smear the poor, defenceless, vulnerable Sussexes. Trickery, treachery, hypocrisy. And if there's one conclusion to draw from the final instalment of their Netflix series, it's that Prince Harry surely is now a traitor to the country that he once served.
Piers goes on to say that Harry and Meghan's documentary didn't give any evidence that the royals were racist to the couple. Meanwhile, there are also reports that King Charles is being advised against inviting Harry and Meghan to his coronation in May. Now, royal experts say if the couple attends, they will likely be greeted with a sea of boos from the crowd. Tori, you're shaking your head, and you and Erica are really diving in deep into this series. You guys have a podcast about it on
Come Back with Erica.
Thanks for the plug.
Of course.
Thank you.
I'm your biggest fan.
Thank you.
So what are you thinking
Okay. First of all, the buffoon of Sussexes. Piers Morgan isn't an expert on anything but his own behind. Whatever. That guy stinks. I feel like Jeff. Get out. Beat
You're
it.
channeling him.
Yeah. But he has a whole motive. He knew her before. There was anger there with a friendship.
If you're obsessed with her, just say that.
Yeah, you are obsessed. Second, and Erica and I will get into this, but if you watched yesterday, this is a fascinating take. What they learned from Bot Sentinel, which takes a look at information on the web. And they found with Meghan Markle that 70% of all the hatred and the racism and the death threats came from 83 accounts only. And guess how many people it spread to? 17 million people. Okay, and guess who was at the center of that 83 accounts?
Samantha Markle.
Okay.
And guess who her cronies were? Caucasian
White
housewives,
suburban housewives.
middle and upper middle class women.
That's right.
They were hating. They were hating, and they were reflecting on getting Meghan or Samantha Markle in on it, and then basically trying to destroy Meghan.
Yes.
And between the British media and these 83 accounts,
83, less than fewer than 100.
orchestrated the whole thing.
See, and I think it's deeper than that. If we're gonna go all the way in the back of the Honda Civic right now, we're just
Not
like
Honda Civic.
spitballing ideas. I'm telling you guys, I don't think that 83 accounts could touch that many people unless there was somebody at the head of that,
A PR machine.
They coordinate it.
that is making sure that is getting out to people. 83 accounts cannot touch that many accounts.
It was a highly coordinated.
Organized.
And the thing about it is, think about even on the show. If there's a clip that takes off, one person can repost that and get 1 million views. Then another person reposts that. So imagine if people were actually working in conjunction with each other.
Right.
Then it becomes astronomical.
It blows up.
Here's my worry, and we brought it up yesterday, or I brought it up yesterday, and some people thought it was too far of a comparison when I read your comments. I compared the media, the tabloids, by placing Meghan and Harry as like others. That is so dangerous. I compared it to the insurrection because people would read these headlines and they would get very upset and they would martyrize themselves and think, okay, I'm going to show up to the Capitol because these people are traitors. This election was stolen. To hear Piers Morgan, who has a very large reach, call Harry a traitor,
That's
to
what I was
me,
going to bring up, Sam.
really
Yes,
is dangerous. And again, you're going to have disenfranchised people hear that and think that they are then doing the quote-unquote right thing.
The only thing absolutely, Sam, and the only thing I would disagree with, I wouldn't say it was dangerous. It's also very intentional. There's a reason we always hear the word traitor. There's a reason when we're talking about immigrants, we're always being overrun.
Right.
There's a reason that they're using these words. When they start talking about LGBTQ people, they're saying that they're grooming your kids. They don't say they're having drag shows. They're saying that because when somebody's going after your kids, when somebody's a traitor, Lindsay, you know what we do to traitors. Tori, you know what you do if somebody goes after your kids. You gives a crazy person free reign to go crazy in a Walmart, like that dude did after reading that manifesto where he killed 26 Mexican Americans, and he had that same manifesto. We're being overrun. They use these words to trigger almost like a Manchurian candidate.
It's a dog
crazy
whistle.
followers and it works every time, and then they disavow them immediately. And do not ever let them get away with calling these people crazy. These people have been programmed to do this. I've been around for a long time. This wasn't happening like this in the 90s.
Right.
I never heard newscasters saying these exact words, and as soon as they do, there's a shooting. And I'm gonna say that wrong. I'm not waiting, but if God forbid something happens at a synagogue, we cannot say no one saw this coming. This rhetoric has been ramping up. This kind of rhetoric from over the pond and here happens all the time. So on this show, I wanted to make a pledge: we're never going to call anybody like this crazy again. This is intentional. And we need to understand that. So anytime you hear one of your broadcasts say that, you know what they're doing. You know what time it is.
I think that the royal family is wholly wrong. The British media is wholly wrong. In this situation, Meghan and Harry chose the right thing, full stop. I just say, as a mom, a black mom, I would want to know, because the only people that could really take the house down, which they started to do, is Meghan and Harry. So I would want to know specific details that could start to dismantle this thing that us as Americans don't take as serious as the people do over there. And so if we start to criticize them in the same way that we talk about cancel culture over here, it's been effective for the people that are doing actual wrong. And maybe we overcorrected a little bit, but it still has been effective. And so we can look at the royal family and say, you need to give, let's say, reparations to the people who deserve it, and stop parading around the city and using all these money for yourselves and to invest in your family when you tried to disrespect the only black woman that has ever stepped foot in that house. I think that it's important to name names and start to actually do something about it, because otherwise we're just telling the story from the outside. And I know that's a big task to ask two people to do, but I think we have to start somewhere. Otherwise, that still exists, the racism still exists, and nothing happens to the British media.
Very true. Very true. Okay, switching gears here. Big switch. The little black dress was the fashion hit at last night's premiere of Babylon. Check out Margot Robbie's version of the. Oh my!
Look how good she looks.
Woo! Okay,
Sam,
now
you sound like you're at a construction site.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. And look at Olivia Wilde, who wore black with sheer. Very beautiful. Meanwhile, Elle Fanning wore a very classic black floor-length dress. And Brad Pitt also did a classic black suit without the tie, okay? But take a look at Kelly Rowland, who ditched the black and wore this amazing red number. Wow. And the movie, by the way, follows the rise and fall of multiple characters during Hollywood's transition from silent to sound films in the late 1920s. And apparently, the film has some scenes that even shocked Brad Pitt. Here's what he had to say.
Man, this party scene went on for 2 weeks. And the first day was a bit shocking, even for me. Wow, we're doing this? We're really doing this? A lot of nudity. And then kind of day 3 was like, yeah, a lot of nudity. And then 2 weeks into it, it was just like another day at the office.
Tori, does a lot of nudity get you to the theater, or you're like, too much?
When Brad Pitt looked at the camera and said, a lot of nudity, I need a ticket.
Question. Al, did you research this story as well as the other one from earlier?
I did not. First of all, I hadn't seen the lot of nudity clip. I don't know what that's going to exactly look like, but I do have a theory, Lindsay, that we are seeing, we heard Jennifer Aniston make that comment about how there are no real celebrities anymore. And you look at like Hollywood Babylon coming out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think all these kind of old school stars are like, we want to kind of remember old Hollywood. And Once Upon a Time was a smash hit, so I'm expecting big things.
So that's a yes.
Yes. I had it sent directly to my house, yes.